Good evening, everyone. I want to welcome you to the James Madison Institute's 2014 Annual Dinner. I'm Bob McClure, President and CEO of the James Madison Institute. JMI is one of Florida's oldest and largest think tanks, founded in 1987 by J. Stanley Marshall. No doubt most all of you have heard the motto, live free or die. That's where the theme of tonight's dinner comes from. Live free or move to Florida. We're seeing that phrase and that theme continue to develop all across the country. We have a tremendous outsized responsibility to advance the causes that we believe in when it comes to policy in the future of this state and this country.
What some of you know about tax flight is, it won't surprise you that income and wealth goes to where it's most welcome. And we're talking about billions, in some cases trillions of dollars. In particular, in our last release, we're looking at $2 trillion of movement of adjusted gross income across and between the states, and that's a big number. Update to our first release of how Money Walks look at this across the country. We now know that Florida is on path to eclipse over $100 billion of adjusted gross income from other states coming into the Sunshine State over the last 19, nearly 20 years. The economy is working in Florida. It's been a part of a long-term path that, relative to the rest of the country, is quite substantial and has much going for it. Not only because we are a low-tax state that does not tax personal income, not only because there's tourism and trade, the likes of which other states would only claim to envy, but because there's been a strong effort to get out of the way of many of you in entrepreneurship, in production, in earnings, taking risk for that return. So that's a big part of what we've tried to honor and make possible and hopefully inspire in the future of others. I'm going to turn it over for the Major League pitcher now, the closer, the person who's going to tell you how to fix Washington, D.C. and keep all this evidence expanding so that your envelope of liberty is broader than ever. Steve Moore, welcome.
And I have so much fun. Travis and I have been traveling around the country. I always say he's the ad and I'm the nauseum, and this message of how important taxes and stuff are. And these state think tanks have an incredible influence. They really do. And most of the groups like JMI are located in state capitals, and you're like these little islands of fiscal capitalist sanity in these kind of oceans of socialism. I think bang for the buck, and I think it's hard to find a better investment in America's future and Florida's future than groups like the James Madison Institute. Why we should feel optimistic about the U.S. economy. That is, when I was at the Journal, we would meet almost every week with some of the major CEOs of Fortune 100 companies. We would meet with people who run venture capital firms that are really injecting that needed seed capital into these companies that will become the future Googles and Apples and so on. And also a lot of just medium-sized business CEOs. And we would talk to them, and we'd look over their books. And the thing that's amazing about American companies today, and this is something to be very proud of as Americans, is how the American companies, with very few exceptions, they have retooled themselves, they have re-engineered themselves, they have sweat out all that debt that they took on. If you looked at the books of American companies 7 or 8 years ago, they were a disaster, right? I mean, way over leveraged, flabby, inefficient. They've gotten rid of a lot of that. Now, the point I'm making is today, you look at American companies, and this is something I would not have said as an economist 5 years ago, 10 years ago, or 20 years ago. The best run companies in the world today are American companies. They really are. If American companies are doing so well, which they are, why aren't we seeing the kind of economic rebound we should be seeing in this country today? Fear. These companies are terrified. And this was the response we get every time we ask these company CEOs, why aren't they investing? What are they afraid of? What are they afraid of? They are afraid of what is the next shoe that is going to drop from Washington, D.C. So what is the lesson here? It's that incentives do matter. It's that free markets matter, and it's groups like JMI and the Heritage Foundation and others that are fighting this fight every day that are making a difference.
I want to introduce to you my board chairman, former Speaker of the House, Alan Bentz. Alan is the kind of public servant the founders envisioned when they began to pull this country together.
We're very honored in Florida to have two really great leaders of the Florida House and Florida Senate.
I want to say thank you to JMI and for the role that you've played in conservative leadership and fiscal responsibility and freedom in the state of Florida for the last several years. Bob, you've been a great friend. You've come and spoken to our caucus on numerous occasions and helped light the fire, keep the fire lit in the state of Florida, and helped remind us what we could be if we stuck to our principles. So thank you and JMI for everything you do for us in the state of Florida. We're grateful. I couldn't be more proud of the way that we've run our chambers together and the conservative leadership that the legislature together has worked on. And so it's an honor to be here with you tonight. Thank you. We're in a philosophical war as a country where one side is trying to convince a group of people that they can create enough programs to lift them out of their poverty. And then there's another group, a group that we're all here in together supporting, an organization, JMI, that facilitates and pushes this belief that we can lift people out of generational poverty through freedom and education and upward mobility.
If we think that our ideas by themselves, without extra help, without extra advocacy, without institutions and organizations like JMI, are going to win the day, I remind you, you know that those who control the megaphones are not on the side of the issues that we care about. So what I hope you would think about for the future of Florida and the future of this country is that we are the people we've been waiting for. The people in this room have the future of Florida in your hands, and people like us around the country have the future of America at their disposal. And if we in this time don't seize that opportunity, and if my children and the Speaker's children do not live in a country built on freedom and economic liberty, it will be our fault because we took our success for granted. You've got to win the debate, and we've got to push the issues and the points that we care about, because if we don't, if you don't, no one else will.